We now return to Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Joyful, jubilant jumping jacks. Oh, Mr. Natsume, I'm so pleased for you. Locum student Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire, and non-locum judicial assistant Miss Mikoto Esquires. Now, finally, at long last, there can be proof. Proof that I'm innocent, and proof that my tea is innocent. Ah, good morning, my dear fellows. Ah, Airlock Sholmes. May you drink my tepid tea and fall forever silent. I thought the tea was innocent. Oh, Mr. Sholmes, you came. How wonderful. Please save your derision. I know what you're thinking. Good morning, he says, when it's very nearly time for luncheon. Your scorn is written clearly across your faces. Nobody said or thought anything of the sort. The truth is, I was determined that today would be the day. As sleep seduced me last night, I thought, tomorrow, for once, I shall not oversleep. I'll rise early and be present in court to support my companions. Such spirited determination has a beauty all of its own, does it not? Oh, yes. And then I began to muse on the subject. Why do people oversleep, I queried. Why, time after time, do they make the same foolish blunder? And the answer came to me at once. It's so delightfully simple. People oversleep because they sleep. Well, is that not an astute insight into the matter? Oh, yes. Upon which realization I attempted an experiment. I didn't sleep a wink all night. And the result? By first light, I was exhausted, and began to be assailed by fits of drowsiness. Shocking. And so the conclusion of last night's experiment is this. A good night's sleep is quite simply essential. Yes, I think most of us probably knew that already. What others presuppose I prove by experimentation. That, my dear fellow, is the scientific method. Ah, yes, and one more thing. Do you remember this? Ah. Yes, of course, it's the poison that Miss Green was about to drink at the hospital yesterday. Oh, you didn't manage to... It was a laborious task, as the bottle was nearly empty, but such inconveniences do not hinder Sholmes. I managed to confirm that it contained strychnine. So I was right. Perhaps, though of course such circumstantial evidence doesn't prove Miss Green's guilt. I shall leave the bottle in your care now, by licking the inside of the neck, but licking the inside of the neck is not recommended. Bottle of poison has been entered into the court record. Ah, could I have a word? Who? Oh. It's you. Gregson, how good of you to come. Forget it. Excuse me. Wait a minute, Inspector. I don't wish to make a nuisance of myself. From the look on your face, I'd say it's someone else who you think is making a nuisance of himself. My dear Inspector, please speak freely. Pretend that I'm not here. Believe me, if I could do that, life would be a whole lot simpler for me. Do you have the results, Inspector, of the investigation of Mr. Shakespeare's room? Not yet. Shouldn't be long now, though. Now, I'm here about something else. That dead convict, actually. Oh, you mean the man from this newspaper article we discovered yesterday in Mr. Shakespeare's room? A man by the name of... Ah, yes, Selden. I went through the archives at your yard and dug out the fellow's file. There's something in there that, well, it caught my eye. Something caught your eye? What, Inspector, what? I've copied out the relevant parts for you, so you can read it yourselves. Thank you. The capital offenders file has been entered into the court record. These documents. Let's read them. 8 counts of burglary, 6 counts of suspected murder, died of natural causes whilst in prison, his final moments witnessed only by his cellmate. The estimated £1,000 worth of loot he stole remains uncovered. I bet it's in the pipes. Manchester's Strangeways prison announced the death of convicted murderer and burglar Selden by natural causes in the early hours of this morning. He'd been suffering with fever since the end of October. Alerted by the shouts of his fellow cellmate, medical staff arrived to find him already dead before his capital punishment could be carried out. He stashed some loot. These documents include the details that were in the newspaper cutting we found in Mr. Shamspeare's room. I'll rearrange everything in the court record so we don't have duplicate information. Why are you giving us a copy of this important file, though? Well, you're the ones who turned up the clue in the first place, aren't you? I'm just making sure things get handled in a proper fashion. Oh, Scotland Yard's workings are so wonderful. Indeed, my dear fellows, and the inspector here is a shining diamond in its crown. A shining diamond in the rough, maybe. Look, I just don't want to be beholden to a lawyer, that's all. Counsel for the defense and defendant. Court proceedings are about to resume. Make your way into the courtroom at once. Well, I shall leave you then. I'll be listening with interest from the public gallery. Not nodding off at all, certainly not. Thank you, Mr. Sholmes. I'm rather tired of seeing Mr. Mustache in floods of tears, personally, so the best of luck to you. Locum student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Yes, Mr. Natsume. It's time, isn't it? Yes, this is it. Miss Olive Green and Mr. William Shamspeare. This is going to be the final battle. I won't really have saved Soseki-san until I've exposed the whole truth of everything that's been going on. But it's all coming to a head now. You can do it, Ryunosuke. You have to. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session again now. Before the recess, we heard a most startling accusation from the defense. Namely, that the victim of the case we heard here only a few days ago was the true perpetrator of this incident. A reckless, rash, and prejudiced charge of wrongdoing, in my opinion, my lord, however. The prosecution has tried to extend every courtesy to this amateur newcomer from dubious eastern shores. Thank you for that backhanded consideration. A rather cold assessment from the Honourable British Prosecutor, I must say. So, Lord Van Zieks, is the new witness present and ready to take the stand? Ready and waiting in the witness's antechamber, my lord. Very well, bailiff, bring the witnesses in. Witnesses, state your names and occupations for the court, please. William Shamspeare, my liege. For mine occupation, I can say only that I be a tragic victim, to be pitied. Currently unemployed, in other words. I'm Olive Green. I'm a fledgling artist. Well, no, not a fledgling, really. A hopeless failure who's too weak-spirited to admit she's got no talent, I suppose. Also currently unemployed, in other words. A coterie. Mr. Shamspeare. My lord, I am thy humble servant. I'm afraid that you are no longer merely the victim in this affair. The possibility has been raised that you are in fact the assailant intent on taking the life of your fellow lodger. The part you have played in this whole business will be thoroughly scrutinized, I assure you. I would for naught else, my lord. And Miss Green. Yes. You are aware of the reason you have been summoned to this courtroom today, I presume? Yes, the officer did explain. He said I poisoned this ridiculous buffoon. And? Do you accept the charge, Miss Green? I don't know anything about any poisoning. And I don't know anything about this man. Come, lady, die to live. Verily, I know not thy prickly, pea-pigmented personage. Very well. What's your voice? Let us proceed with the matter at hand. That's beginning to ascertain whether or not Miss Green has any involvement in this affair. It's all very strange indeed. Why would you suspect me? I barely ever go to the East End anyway. It so happens that I passed by that neighborhood 6 days ago, that's all. And on the night that this man was poisoned, I was still in hospital fighting for my life. Yes, having been unfortunately caught up in the incident on the street outside the Garadib household. She said she barely went there, but didn't she go to the tavern nearby, the bar, whatever she was going to? An incident that rendered you unconscious for some 3 days. I was struck in the middle of my back by a knife through no fault of my own, and now I'm under suspicion? What other irrelevant thing might I be suspected of? It's all very disturbing.
Your energies may be better spent worrying about random knife attacks, I feel, Miss Green.
At this point in time, all that appears to connect you with Mr. Shamspeare's lodgings is the Briar Road incident of 6 days ago. That's why we would like you to testify formally now about exactly what happened. Oh no, the incident 6 days ago. You mean you want me to relive that awful incident? Accident, whatever? Unfortunately, yes. Please tell the court what happened that day. And, of course, we will be interested to hear from you about your movements that day too, Mr. Shamspeare. But what happened 6 days ago is nothing to do with me being poisoned.
Let us proceed, then, that witnesses will present their formal testimony to the court on the subject of the incident that took place on Briar Road the evening of the 17th of February.
Evening of February. It was 6 days ago, at about 5 p.m. I was walking along in the snow when I was suddenly stabbed in the back. Coincidentally, it happened to be just outside the house where the men in this case have their lodgings. I was at the tavern on the eve of which thou speakest, for I had bespoke my supper. She was going to the tavern too. It was the first time I'd been in the area. I had a little matter to attend to, that's all. Anyway, I was admitted straight to hospital, so I knew nothing about all this business.
Yes, second incident inside a week at what I believe to be aptly described as the haunted lodgings. One can only presume this is a most unfortunate coincidence.
Meanwhile, you say you were not in your room, Mr. Shamspeare? It was the following morn when I did awaken that I learned of the dire events. Marry, what a commotion did the officers of the law make on the floor above mine. And Soseki-san was arrested on suspicion of attempted murder. It's suspected there's nothing connecting these two witnesses but happenstance. That's true, it does seem as though they're unrelated at first glance, but I'm not so sure. There's something lurking in the shadows here. I feel certain of it. And this is my one and only chance to expose it.
Counsel, you may now cross-examine these two witnesses if you wish.
Yes, my lord. The evening of the 17th. It was 6 days ago at 5 p.m. I was walking on the snow when I suddenly stabbed in the back. I'm well acquainted with the case. I'm sorry you had to go through that. It was awful. I still can't believe I was unconscious for so long. And I woke up to find that the case had been solved and the culprit arrested. Yes, the incident has been resolved already. Perhaps it would help you to consider it a bad dream that ended with you awakening and should now be forgotten. Yes, I suppose so. Thank you. But before you put it completely out of your mind... let's actually read what's on the screen, but before you put it completely behind you, Miss Green, I need you to remember the details one last time. You must tell the court exactly what happened that day for us to arrive at the truth about this new case. The trouble is, there's nothing to tell, really. I was just walking along the pavement. Coincidentally, it happened to be just outside the house where the men in this case have had their lodgings. What were you doing there that day, though? What do you mean? The art school you attend, what's it called? Yes, it's the Thorndike Academy of Fine Arts. According to Mr. Sholmes, that's just in the vicinity of Brixton Road, which is some 10 stops away from the scene of the underground. The underground? I believe you mentioned before that you also live on Brixton Road, isn't that right? So why then would you have been walking along Briar Road in the middle of the East End?
It's because, oh yes, of course. I thought it might make a nice picture.
The witness is a student of art. City-dwelling artists can't all paint grand urban vistas.
That's right. I happen to like the crumbling look of that part of town.
Perhaps quaint would have been less grating term. Point is, she's definitely hiding something. Yes, it seems she's not going to be forthcoming with the truth. If she's trying to hide why she was there that evening, it must mean there's a reason for her not wanting us to know. That's the key to this. And you, Mr. Shamspeare, on the evening of the incident 6 days ago? Would you tell the court what exactly you were doing?
It would be my pleasure, sire. I was at the tavern on the eve of which you speak.
Hold it!
A tavern, you say? Which one?
It was the Slug and Salad where I tarry. 'Tis a jewel in the East End.
And a little unexpected, I feel.
Uh-huh.
What do you mean, Lord Van Zeeks? The Slug and Salad offers unusually fine dining, for the locality at least. Not an establishment you'd expect to be patronized by a man with not even a crumb of bread in his room.
It's true. The menu lists premium crusts of bread and glasses of water, and different levels of cloudiness.
I would have expected grub scrubbery in the local vicinity to be more appropriate for your means. Watery soup and mushy peas, or rather soupy water and pea-like mush. All equally appetizing.
I just wanted to try some water in a different pub for once. What's wrong with that?
How different can water really be? Oh, believe me, Naruhodo. Believe me. Or perhaps there's a more plausible explanation. A specific reason why he had to go to that particular establishment. Agreed. The fact that on that day of all days he dined at a place he wouldn't normally, it does stand out. So Mr. Shamspeare's own actions on the day of the incident 6 days ago were slightly suspicious. I wonder if we have some evidence that can explain those actions. I don't know that we do. Nearby street map. Doesn't show it. We know what that is. I don't think we do. Not at the moment. Wish I did. Sadly, I can't think of anything at the moment. If we find a clue that could explain why Mr. Shamspeare went there, we must present it to the court. Yes, absolutely.
If that is all on the matter, Counsel, I would ask Miss Green to reiterate her next statement.
It was the first time I'd been in the area. I had a little matter to attend to, that's all.
Hold it!
What little matter, Miss Green? Please elaborate.
It was nothing, really. It's not worth mentioning.
If you remember, you mentioned it to us yesterday at the hospital. It was related to the card you were holding.
Miss Green.
What was that? She clearly hid something behind her back. From memory, I believe the card contained a note that read, "I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross."
What does that matter? It has nothing to do with Duncan.
Excuse me.
Mr. Shamspear, do you have something to share with the court?
To be or not to be, that is the question. Ah, pray forgive me. The great bard's word springeth from within me with never a thought.
Don't tell me it's because you're possessed by Shakespeare's spirit, right? Hearing Miss Green's words a moment ago seemed to make you think of something. Something of relevance, perhaps.
Nay, sire, 'twas nothing at all.
Presumably you know the name, though, Mr. Duncan Ross, I mean. After all, you were both lodgers in the same house.
I would it were so, but sadly nay. Lodging be a lonely occupation, sire. My lodging fellows be rarely known to me.
So you haven't heard of him, even though he passed away in the room just one floor above yours.
Miss Green.
Me, my lord? What have I done something wrong?
The card that was mentioned before containing the note, do you have it upon your person?
I do, yes, but I don't need it anymore. In fact, I should throw it away, really.
Before you dispose of it, the court will take it as evidence, please.
Miss Green's card has been entered into the court record. Of course, that's what links Mr. Shamspear and Miss Green. Let's look. The envelope has been ripped open rather carelessly, hasn't it? Miss Green strikes me as the type to open correspondence more neatly than that. Ah, what is it? The way the envelope is torn, I'm almost sure I've seen that exact same shape somewhere else.
Oh, you don't mean... Were you thinking of this piece of evidence, Mr. Naruhodo?
Exactly, that's it. Try to match them up. They go together perfectly. This torn-off end of the envelope clearly belongs to this card. I know the envelope has been ripped off. The envelope fits perfectly with the torn-off piece of the crime scene. Torn-off envelope fits perfectly with Miss Green's possession envelope. Okay. We don't open the card. We don't open the card. Apparently opening the card, there's nothing on it. It's blank. All right, fine. Fine. It's Duncan Ross.
Now, continue with your testimony, please, Miss Green.
Anyway, I was admitted straight to hospital, so I knew nothing about all this business.
Oh shit, I didn't... That's the wrong one.
Oh, Mr. Naruhodo, you pursued Mr. Shamspear wonderfully there.
It worked out well, hasn't it? We have a new clue at last. Right, now I need to pull off a really insightful objection somewhere.
Well, as you've managed to expose this promising new angle, I wonder if you should perhaps try to develop that.
Yes, of course. And yelling out objections isn't necessarily the best way to do that, I suppose. It was in this. Tavern of the Eve, they speak, bespoke my supper. The tavern, you say? Which one?
Was the slug and salad where I did tarry? 'Tis a jewel in the East End.
Yes. Little unexpected. Okay, let's go. We will now present the evidence. Mr. Shamspear.
Yes, sire.
On the day in question, is it not the case that you visited the Slug and Salad, a place you don't normally patronize, for a very particular reason?
I don't know what you're talking about. Pray, if thou hast some purpose, speakst.
Very well. I will present the court with evidence. Evidence that explains why you had to be at the Slug and Salad that day, namely...
Take that!
I believe this card reveals the answer.
Good lord, Miss Green's card, you mean?
That's right, my lord. It reads, I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross. Come to the Slug and Salad on Briar Road at 5 p.m. on the 17th. Don't tell anybody else about this letter or the meeting. It is a matter of utmost importance. Mr. Shamspeare, your actions on the afternoon of Miss Green's stabbing are exactly as described in this note. Personally, I find it hard to believe that's a coincidence. Don't you, Mr. Shamspeare?
Well... Excuse me, can I say something?
Yes, Miss Green?
That card was delivered to me. It doesn't have anything to do with this old man, does it?
Well, you'd think so, yes, but it's hard to believe it's merely...
My lord, may I?
You what, Miss Green?
I'd like to make something very clear about that card.
Very well, then. You may amend your testimony to include details about the particular note. About the peculiar note, whatever.
This note was delivered to me at my address. It's nothing to do with the old man next to me here.
Hold it!
I think you said you received it the day before the incident, didn't you?
Yes, that's right.
There appears to be no indication of the sender's name or address on the envelope.
It was in my letterbox, and that's all I know, I'm afraid. I've no idea who sent it.
I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross. Who's the Duncan Ross, please?
A friend of mine. He attended the same art school as I do. He passed away in a tragic accident a month ago now, though. I wasn't sure what to make of that note, to be honest, but in the end I decided to go.
So you found out what the information was?
Of course I didn't. You're not thinking straight.
Whilst on her way there, she was stabbed in the back. As my learned friend hopefully remembers. Ah, yes, of course. She never made it to the meeting.
Mr. Naruhodo, you better...
Alright, alright. Well... We do have evidence of who sent it, though.
This note was delivered to me at my address. It's nothing to do with the odd man next to me here.
This is not true.
Objection!
The day before the incident, exactly 1 week ago now, this note was delivered to your address. And upon carrying out the instructions in the note, you found yourself in hospital.
Yes, I did. It's terrible, everything that's happened to me.
Yes, it is terrible. If it's all true, that is.
What do you mean?
Miss Green, have a look at this, please. It's the torn-off end of an envelope.
Oh, is it?
And it so happens that it fits together perfectly with the envelope of the note you received.
Where did you find that?
In Mr. Shamspeare's room.
In my room?
Mr. Shamspeare, do you perhaps remember this note from somewhere?
Well...
Your actions that afternoon follow the instructions in the note in the letter. Come to the Slug and Salad on Briar Road at 5 p.m. on the 17th, and so that's exactly where you went. Let me ask you again, Mr. Shamspeare. You already knew about this note, didn't you? And you, Miss Green?
What did I do?
As this torn-off end of the envelope proves, the note was originally in Mr. Shamspeare's room. So how is it that it came to be in your possession?
I don't have the first idea. I'm just a fledgling artist, after all.
There's only one explanation. You broke into Mr. Shamspeare's room and stole it.
Sorry, thou hast what? You mean I mean thou were in my room? What on earth do you want with me?
It would seem that both witnesses need to testify again.
Miss Green,
Yes.
whilst you have the court's sympathy, I am sure, for the suffering you have endured in recent events, anyone found to be giving false testimony in a court of law will be duly punished. Please bear that in mind.
Yes, I know.
Very well then, witnesses will give formal testimony again now, on the subject of this curious anomaly regarding the note Miss Green claims to have received.
I think that's a fantastic point to stop. I'll see you next time.